STDs from a conflict perspective, people in poverty are more likely to attract STDs because they aren't able to receive the education and knowledge about STDs.
In the United States, there were over 19 new cases of STDs in 2010. There are about 65 million Americans who are currently infected with an STD.
At Utah State University, there is a wellness center where students are provided the opportunity to be diagnosed and treated for STDs.
My name is Chase Warren. I'm a clinical lab assistant here at Utah State University.
So how long have you been working here at the wellness center?
3 years.
And I guess in your time here, how frequently do you see people come in with STDs?
Every day.
Yeah. Is it pretty like once a day or multiple times a day?
It depends the time of year.
All right. So when would you say it was more prominent?
At the beginning of every semester.
And why do you think that is?
We just have a joke that students are getting acquainted with each other.
1/4 of the sexually active population consists of people aged 15 to 24 and make up 1/2 of all known STDs.
Are you surprised at the fact that 1/2 of STDs are between the ages of 15 to 24?
It's not surprising.
Not surprising. Why do you think that is?
Because I think they're the most sexually active population. And they're not smart about it.
How big of a problem do you think STDs are in our community?
Our community's college students, it's actually on the rise.
10% of men and 20% of women contract an STD annually.
10% of men and 20% of women in an annual year get a new STD. Do you find that surprising that more women than men get STDs?
In some ways, yes, I'm surprised, but in some ways, I'm not really. I think part of it is because, in my opinion, I mean, I'm no expert at this, but they just don't talk about it. People don't talk about it. And so, a guy might have an STD and not show symptoms, or even know he's had an STD or an STI, and might pass that along without ever saying anything. I think guys are more apt to lie about it, I guess.
34% of African Americans, 15% of Hispanic Latinos, 10% of Asians, and 10% of white Caucasians have had an STD within the last year.
But what would you say are some maybe sociological solutions for STDs?
Well, like I said, I think prevention is one of them, but prevention can come in a number of ways. It's not only just use of condoms and contraceptives, but I think people get embarrassed about talking about things before they actually engage in sexual intercourse, and so knowing your partner's history and your own history and where your status is, and being able to talk about those things and trust each other is a big preventative.
Analyzing prostitution from a functionalist perspective, prostitution is functional because it provides prostitutes with a source of income, and it provides a sexual alternative for men who lack a sexual partner or are dissatisfied with their current sexual partner.
There are over 50 million acts of prostitution in the United States annually. Why do people become prostitutes, in your opinion?
It's easy money, and it can feed someone's drug habit, pay for their bills, provide for their family, or help them get out of a situation that they are in.
There are over 700 acts of prostitution per prostitute per year.
How long have you done prostitution?
4 years.
4 years?
Mhm.
And what got you into it?
Actually, I was on Moco Space, and I came across this guy that was supposed to be my boyfriend, and he actually that night put me out here on Robinson and had me on drugs. So I was on X, and I was drunk, and I was smoking PCP and marijuana, and he just dropped me off on the streets and was like, okay, go out here and make some money for me, and that's what I did. And just about 3 months ago, I left him, and I found me a boyfriend, and he's not my pimp. I actually take his check every 2 weeks, so.
So he works a regular job?
Yes, he does.
And then when he gets his money, you take
He goes
it?
and cashes it, and he gives it to me.
Okay. But he doesn't make you work out here, does he?
No, I did this on my own.
Now, you say when you met the first guy, was that like on a social media site, like a dating kind of site or something?
Yeah.
And to kind of, did you go there just to meet a guy, just to go out with, or what?
Actually, I was just trying to get friends, and then I came across him, and he was like, yeah, I want you to be my girlfriend, and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. So we met in person. Actually, that night he came to my grandma's house and picked me up, and then we hung out and got messed up, and then he threw me out on Robinson, and I stayed with him for a long time. I thought I was in love with him, and how he loved me, he wanted to marry me, and then he started beating me up, and I was coming out here with black eyes, and I left him.
So initially when you got into prostitution, would you say it was by force or coercion, or what? Was it something you agreed to do?
It was after he put me out here, I kind of just went along with it, pretty much. I mean, no, it wasn't my choice for him to just throw me out of the car out here, but after he put me out here and I seen the other girls and what they were doing, then I got to hang up and just stayed out here.
And that was, what, 4 years ago?
Yes.
Okay. So, and if you're 19 now, so you were 15 years old?
Yes.
Now, so where was your family during all of this?
Actually, I got kicked out of my mother's house, and I was living with my grandmother, and it wasn't going too well, so I just decided to go with this.
13.5 million men 18 years or older participate in some sort of prostitution compared to 2.1 million women every year.
Should prostitution be legal everywhere?
It's illegal in 49 states, yet it's still a problem. Prostitution is the oldest profession in the world, and just like people who drank during Prohibition, people engage in this industry whether it's legal or not.
In the year 2010, there were around 63,000 arrests in the U.S., with 69% of them being women.
Symbolic interactionism explains that people compare themselves to porn stars in appearance and in the bedroom. Women are seen as sex symbols, and their value is based on their looks and ability in the bedroom. Men have less space time in pornography films, and that emphasize the idea of unrealistic expectations that women are there to serve men. While there is a taboo label plastered on pornography, the liberal point of view argues that while it may offend people, it brings harmless pleasure to the user. Others feel that it attacks morality.
Like, explain it on a symbolic interactionist theory?
For sure. So the way I would look at it from a symbolic interaction theory, and I think it translates very well to porn addiction for those who might have it, is the things that you might see in pornography, sometimes they are a more extreme sexual acts. And so once you sort of view that and you see sort of really sort of excessive sexual activity You might think that that's normal or that's how all people operate, and therefore, when you actually engage in sexual activity with someone else, with an actual human being, if you think that everything that you saw in porn is something that is going to happen in an actual sexual relationship, sometimes it's not actually the case, and therefore, the things that you've learned, the things that you've viewed and witnessed in porn, can stunt, I think, people's sexual developments in that regard.
More men than women participate in porn.
40% of Americans visit pornography websites monthly. 1/4 of the American population have seen an X-rated movie in the past year.
Okay, so do you think pornography is a form of addiction?
I think it can be for some people. I think that if you look at the way certain people who engage in excessive porn watching, there have been studies that show that they don't necessarily function well sexually with an actual real life partner. So, for example, the things that they see in pornography are things that they think are reflective of reality. And then when they have someone who is an actual person and when it comes to sexual activity, they may think that what they saw in porn is actually reflective of reality, and therefore they don't function well in an actual relationship. So from that standpoint, I think there can be some addictive aspects to it.
Do you think that pornography is necessarily bad for society, or do you think it serves its role?
My personal opinion is that pornography is something that is not necessarily harmful. I think it can be harmful to some people, but I think that for the vast majority of people who have viewed pornography in their lifetimes, very few have it become a large burden in their life. Very few people become addicted. Very few people can't function in sexual relationships with a partner. For a small portion, I think it's a problem, but for the vast majority, it isn't. I don't believe that it is.
Okay.
In the year 2010, 30% of the population think porn should be illegal, and 65% think it should be illegal for minors.
So what do you think would happen if porn was made illegal?
I think it would create a black market for it. I think we see that in some countries, more aggressive countries, where pornography or there are very strong sexual mores that are regulated with the government, and it creates a black market. And I think that it would lead to the criminalization, not just of people who work in pornography, but those who might consume it. I mean, if there was a statistic that I saw, I don't know if I'll get the websites correct, but there are more people who visit porn than there are people who visit Amazon, Netflix, and another very popular website combined. So there's a very large demand for pornography, and I think if you made it illegal, it would just create a very large criminal class, and it would lead to putting a lot of strain and stress on the criminal justice system that would be really, I think, unnecessary, but something that would likely result.
The pornography industry makes on average $13 billion annually.
So do you think pornography can lead to things such as prostitution?
I think pornography can for some people. I think that the idea that there is a connection between money and sex is something that can be made between people once they get the idea that there is this relationship between money and sex. I think it can transfer from porn to pornography and vice versa.